Peggy 16.
All right. That was Stay, you guys. This is Inaki Diaz. Hello, man. Welcome to the stream. Thank you.
Hello, Alicia. Hello, everyone.
Everyone can hear him okay and all this kind of stuff. We got it all set up. Hopefully that the volume's good. You know, how the old volume snafu happens. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Hi, Noel Moore. What's going on? So, as you guys know, we were going to be talking a little bit about just becoming an independent developer. Maybe a little bit of the process that you went through. And then I definitely want to, with at least the last half hour, talk about how content creators and independent developers can kind of have a harmonious relationship with each other, and what that can kind of look like. So maybe we'll just start off with, why don't you give them a brief description of the game Stay? Because this is one that's been around for a little while now, but it's recently getting released on some other platforms. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Stay?
Well, Stay is a narrative adventure. We always say it's a conversational adventure because it's most of it is conversation and also puzzles. And basically, it's the story of this guy. His name is Quinn, and he wakes up in a room that he doesn't know. And this room is completely empty with the exception of a computer. So he sits and starts typing to see what happens. And it turns out there's a chat between the user and him. So basically, you can control him. You play as yourself, and you need to guide him. It's kind of an escape room, but you're playing from the distance. So basically, you need to make him trust you. The more he trusts you, the more capable you will be to guide him or help him to in his journey to freedom. And one important aspect of the game is called Stay for a reason. It's in real time. So every time you step out of the game, the clock keeps counting for him. So every second you are out of it, it's a second that he's alone and he's waiting for you to come back. And depending on how long it takes you to come back, he will react differently. And he will tell you, where were you? What was more important than staying with me? So it's a relatively short game for that reason. So it's on average, it's around 6 to 8 hours for one ending. Then we have 7 different endings depending on the dialogue and everything. So I would say you should leave as less as possible.
Yes.
Or it's a game for a weekend or to be played in a few sessions, but close to each other. Like if you play a little bit now and come back in a week, it's gonna be too long period of time being on his own, you know?
That's what I thought was so unique about it, was the usage of time in this game, because I don't know if you guys really understood what he just said there. The passage of time always keeps happening for Quinn. So as you put it, you step away from the game, you're living your life. He's still stuck in there. And when you come back, you may not have a Quinn to come back to if you stay too long away from him, because there is a counter in the game that shows you game played time and game away time. So, yeah. So where did you get the idea then for the game Stay? Like, where did its inception come from?
Well, it's a kind of different question to answer because it was never planned, or we never had like a deep thought about the game. It came out naturally for us. We had this idea of having an imaginary friend, like chasing you with random questions, but it was only like an idea. Then eventually we built like a premise, which was a guy in a dark room with a computer. So that was only a premise. And then Anna, the writer, was crucial because he took that premise and then she built a story around it, and a story that was very important on a personal level for us. So I would say that as long as time went by, it made more sense, you know, and eventually we found out that everything was really meant to be this way, and all the pieces, all the dots, like were like joined together. So it was not like a super predefined process for us. It was just our natural way to share a story, and eventually all the pieces just fell into the right place, I think.
That's excellent, because you do have a really, and there is another half of the team that we don't have here today, Danny.
Yes, of course, yes. Danny is the writer. It's lots of people that also. I mean, the core team was obviously Danny with the programming and Anna with the writing, but there are other people also help us in different stages during development with different roles. So we've been from 3 people, 2, 3 people to 7, 8 at some points, and then eventually 5. So it was a very organic and viable team developing the game.
You grew quite a bit over the last year, right? Because I met you at PAX East 2018. And at that time, was it just you and Danny? And then, of course, with the help of the writing?
Yes, exactly. We did some help, especially the writing, and also an extra programmer and an extra artist. But eventually, once the game was finished, everyone went out again, and we was again Danny and myself. But then, luckily, we have been able to like grow a little bit, and now we are 7 people. And Anna, the writer, is full time with us, and some other people that work in the game. So, we grew up a little bit since
you did
2016.
Since I've seen you there. No, that's amazing to hear, though. So everything's been going well, because I know it's won so many awards too. Is there like a couple of them that you're extremely proud of that you guys managed to snag? Well,
the awards. I always say the same. You need to submit to as many awards as possible, and then in some you are lucky, and some you got rejected. So it's very subjective, obviously. So, but the one that really made us proud is especially 2 of them, the best original idea in Game Lab. Because it was in Barcelona, which is our hometown, but because we were competing against really polished and successful indie titles that sold a lot more than our game. But the jury just decided that our idea was just worth the award more than other successful titles. And also the best narrative in Taipei Game Show, because it was an international award and it has lots of prestige. So these 2 were really meant something special for us. And also, these kind of awards just validate somehow our work and give us like a boost to keep working and to realize that we are not crazy people doing crazy things. No?
Well, I mean, crazy is subjective, right? Like, but no, that's interesting though, because I don't know that I knew that, and maybe people don't know that so you have to submit for these awards that are coming on. What's the process for that like? Like, how do you find out about these things?
Well, we actually literally have like a calendar with all the deadlines from all the contests, and then you keep submitting. The requirements are different on each contest, but you always need to submit. Sometimes you need to be present in that event, otherwise you are not qualifying. That's also the reason we need to travel a lot. In some cases, you don't need to be there. Like, we were nominated in Sao Paulo in Brazil. For best narrative, and we were finalists there, and we actually didn't come there because it was too expensive. But I would say 90% of the awards, they require you to be there. So you need to move around and be. And it's always good to be at conventions. You meet people, you meet media, so it's always worth it, no? But you need to do a very specific submission process in each one of the contests and provide assets and description and everything. Yeah.
Well, as many as you've won, you guys have remained extremely diligent in keeping track of all that. Because I mean, you had like 9 splashed across that trailer just there that you guys have won. That's amazing. So with that being said, since you were talking about conventions, because like I said, I got the pleasure of meeting you at the 2018 PAX, and of course, again, this last year. And so how fruitful do you feel like going to that very first convention was for you? Do you feel like that was kind of a nice, necessary thing that since you were able to acquire a booth to do? Like,
well, I think it's very difficult to evaluate if attending an event is worthy or not. You never know until you are there and you see the amount of attendees and how the event is built. I've had experiences where I felt that I'm just losing time and money for any reason. And this is not about the event being a badly designed event. It's just the purpose of the event. In other cases, it's extremely powerful and super good to be there. I think it's very important to know what the stage of your game is, and if it's pre-launch and you need to meet with media and publishers, or if it's already launched and you just need users knowing about the game and just having the possibility of try the game and just buy it right away. In this PAX East, in this past March, I've met a lot of people saying, we played this game last year. Is it already out? And it has been out for almost a year.
Where have you been?
Exactly. But
I've been around.
It's understandable. It's understandable. When the event finishes, you kind of you lose track of everything, and it's perfectly reasonable. So it's very important. PAX is very user-oriented, I think. On the other side, Game Connection in Paris or Gamescom, they are more like business-oriented. So it's for you to meet publishers or other or media or third parties. So it really depends on the stage that your project is and what your goal for that event. So we've traveled a lot. I mean, we've been in Tokyo twice. We've been in Taipei. We've been in PAX, of course, in Seattle. And I have different opinions of each one of the events. I have to say, PAX is one of my favorites. So
it's a great time. Yeah.
It was really good it was really good to meet you. And also, Taipei Game Show was really good. And obviously Gamescom. I think these three are my favorites from all the big, small, and medium events that we have been.
That's awesome. I know I'm a fan of PAX East. I've met some fantastic people there. And again, I got to meet you, which one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to talk to you today is because you were probably one of the first independent developers that I got the chance to work with before the game even released and got to see how that process went. So it was definitely interesting because, like, who would have thought? I was just walking by because the difference between the booth that you had from the first time that I'd seen you to the second one was quite amazing. They had just this one corner stall, this one game, just the one PC that I just happened to be walking by. Who knows where I was heading towards? And the pixel graphics just caught my eye and I wandered over there. And I don't even know how long you were very kind to speak with me about it and got my hands on the game and then immediately came home and reached out to you. And then going to 2019, you had this really nice, huge booth with a nice banner. You had 4 or 5 different computers set up. Probably got a lot more foot traffic. Got to be right in the mega booth, right?
And actually, it was amazing that you stood on the line in 2018 because we only had one station.
I wasn't moving, man. That's why I asked you. I'm like, time demo? You're like, yeah. I'm like, there's one person here. I'm gonna wait this out. Out.
In our case, the demo sometimes takes 40 minutes. So it was we really appreciated your time waiting.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm glad.
No, yeah, definitely. This year, for a number of reasons, Danny needed to stay at the office in Barcelona, so I was handling the booth myself.
You poor thing.
And it was a huge booth. So we had 4 different stations. And obviously, it drives more people to play the game, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
At least in PAX, I didn't feel like it was insecure. So it wasn't like in other events in Spain or in Germany that you need to really watch your things because somebody's going to steal you stuff.
Right.
I got my magnets stolen, but they are always only magnets.
Yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, come on, people. Anonymously drop it back off. What are you doing?
I think it was by mistake. I think they thought they were something more valuable, but anyway, it was safe enough, and it was lots of people obviously, so it was very productive for us, and it was great. The thing is that it has been almost our farewell tour this last PAX East. So now we need to move into something new, and the cycle of the project is already done with pre-launch and then after launch. So yeah, it was very nice, and we are just hoping to be in the next PAX with a different project, which will be pre-launch again. Like
I have all the confidence you will, for sure. I really do, because this was such a great little title here. So I know you had mentioned it before. So one of the questions I had, like, I don't know if there's anybody in chat right now that has interest in being a developer or maybe in a team that might be getting one together, because funding always seems to be the biggest problem, right? With independent developers, there's 1 to 2 of you, maybe 10 to 15. It's a smaller a group of people that are probably pooling their own efforts together to try to make this realized. We're in the day and age of Kickstarter and things like that. I understand that. But you had decided to go with a publisher. Now, is that something you guys had sought out? Or do you submit to different publishers and see which one sticks? Do they come to you because maybe you put something out there that caught their eye?
Well, the process behind the stay was more in a way that we needed the publisher. Making a game is very expensive. We started this project thanks to an accelerator here in Barcelona. That after winning it, we were lucky enough to have some funds in the shape of public loans. So even though they have like soft conditions, they are loans. So you need to return the money eventually. Yeah. And actually, we are returning the money now. And that helped us to develop the game. But of course, eventually, when you spend like 1.5 years developing the game, all these funds are gone. And then you need to provide some sort of security during this launch process. So it wasn't even a possibility to self-launch our titles. We needed a publisher to gain some sort of like a minimum guarantee in terms of sales. So it was, I think, 2017 in Gamescom where I actively pitched lots of publishers, and I had like a good 6-8 publishers really interested in the game, and eventually we had the chance to have the final word or decide between all of them. Some of them had like better upfront fee, but the recoupable conditions. So if just in case if your audience doesn't know, you actually they send you or they give you money in advance, and then they recoup that money until you start earning royalties from the title. Okay. So sometimes the recoupable amount is you need to recoup 2 times or 3 times what we advance. It's just kind of a credit. In some publishers have like better conditions than others. So we evaluate everything, and at the end we decided with Pqube because they really appreciate the title and the novelty factor, and the terms were good enough. And then we split. You also need to split between different regions and different platforms. In our case, we signed all PC and consoles with the same publisher, and then we left mobile for other publisher, which was specialized on mobile. So. Just a way to divide a little bit things, and then physical is another conversation. So it's kind of when we just put all the partners in a sheet of paper, we have like 8 different partners with Asia, with physical, with mobile, with digital. It gets very complicated, and this is one of the reasons. Maybe 80% of my time is just doing business stuff instead of just pushing pixels. You know, it's very.
You feel like that's the biggest bulk of what you do now.
Yeah, talking to people and negotiating terms and chasing some people to do a press release and the other guy to do ratings for Korea or whatever. It gets complicated. But yeah, I mean, maybe for next project we will see if we can eventually just launch on our own and self-publish instead of going through a publisher. I still think we will prefer to go with a publisher because there are lots of costs that the publisher can take care of, like ratings or just hiring a media agency, like to do the press release and everything.
And they do help with booths at cons too, right? Was that what you were mentioning? Yeah. They can help with that as well, because that can be quite pricey, I've heard, to get a booth at one of these. Yeah.
All the marketing spending, well, it depends on the contract, but mostly publishers can afford at least a part of the marketing spending. So usually we need to afford the traveling costs, but not the booth itself, for instance. So it's kind of a very important thing to be in many events. And sometimes they take your game to another event in England or wherever the publisher is based, and you're not going to travel there, but they take care of and they promote the game actively. Oh, nice. So I think it's still until we have like a bigger community or fan base, so we can try to do it on our own. I think it's for us, it's still better to try to have a publisher. And now we have been in discussions with lots of publishers, and already some of them have asked us, okay, what's next after State? So we have like kind of a lead. So of course we need to pitch our publishers first, because when you sign with a partner, usually they have right of refusal. So next project we need to pitch first to our actual publishers,
Okay.
so our current ones, and then if they refuse, then we are able to pitch to anyone else. So we need to pitch first to Pqube and Dear Villagers and our partners, and then eventually we can have another discussion with other partners.
Oh, that's nice. So just for instance, the publisher you're with right now, there's an opportunity they may not actually be interested in your next project, and that frees you up to pitch to other people.
It really depends. I mean,
It's not like a relationship for life. Is that what you're telling me?
Sometimes it is. And it's a good thing that they are interested enough in your work so they can see your next thing,
Yeah.
But actually, it depends on also our requests in terms of money, in terms of marketing and everything. So timing is very important in game development, and sometimes they have signed other projects and they have no capabilities or whatever. So It's a good thing that they are interested already before knowing anything about our next projects, but we need to see how it goes, honestly.
Oh, excellent. No, I mean, I think they'd be silly to not pick it up, especially after this one. And I do want to hit home how amazing it is that this game is now like everywhere. If you have a device with a screen, you can play this game right now, because it started on PC. Now it's on PlayStation. Well, soon, right? Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, or did I miss that date?
No, it's because the trailer was an old one. But it's available everywhere. It's available on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PS Vita, Switch, mobile, and now also it will be physical limited edition on Switch and PS4. So I think it's pretty much everywhere, or in any relevant platform nowadays.
And the game, the way it plays, it can transform to those mediums so easily. That's what I think is great too. Did any mechanics have to suffer whatsoever going from one platform to the next?
No. It was actually our first prototype was a mobile title because we came from mobile background, so it was intended to be a mobile game. But eventually we decided that for a number of reasons, one of them might be the mobile market for premium titles is very small and very difficult. Another thing is that the publishers can provide better conditions in terms of upfront fees and all this stuff if you are doing a PC console game than a mobile title. Mm-hmm. Also, the media, if you launch the game for PC and consoles, the journalists tend to value it a little bit more, I would say, or for awards and everything. Mobile is a bit like it's like the Black Swan, or like it's a bit different. And for a number of reasons, we decided that it was better to switch into PC first, and then eventually we knew we were going to launch on mobile, but it should be like the last platform. But it started like a mobile title, and gameplay wise, it's the exact same game. Just we adjust the controls a little bit, but it's the exact same title.
Yeah, no, it works. I think it works perfectly with that, honestly. So okay, so I know we're a few minutes in, so I already see some couple of questions going in here. So we can move over to a little bit more with like content creators and how developers work. So like I said, this is the first one that I had the pleasure of working with before its release. So I was in your Discord, before the release, so we got to see some things going on there. So now one question that I see there, so going about approaching a developing team to work on a project. I know in my case, I had the pleasure of meeting you face to face personally, right? And got to develop that. So in the process, as the game was coming out, I'm sure you had content creators reach out to you wanting to work with you, right? In some form or fashion. What was the most successful way that a content creator reached out to you that gave you the confidence to, give them a free key to be able to create content with your passion project? Well,
it's a tough one to answer. It's very tricky, and I know it's kind of controversial, or I have my own thoughts. Because,
and of
like you
course,
said,
guys, this is going to probably be different across the board, but as a general, you know.
yeah. No, but I mean, it's like in your case, for instance, you have been really supportive, and I think you did a great job of just teasing the game a little bit. Just this puzzle has this issue, or this is kind of a walkthrough, or just highlighting the premise of the game and the tone of the game and the atmosphere and how you felt about it and everything. So in that sense, I think is really helpful. The thing I am a bit against, or I'm more reluctant in terms of the benefit for the developer, is when we see lots of gameplay or walkthrough in our comments on YouTube, and we see just the game out there from the first second until the end, because it's not adding real value to the content itself. So of course we don't know in advance which streamer is going to just play the game and just put a bunch of videos on YouTube,
Right.
and which one's going to be more supportive and more like proactive to help us. I think some sort of maybe an ethical code for streamers should be needed at some point. Maybe it's a difference between a small indie title and playing Fortnite. So it's not the same. With you have a game which is based on mechanics and it's based on a system, and you can stream that a million times, and it's not getting away the need for the user to play it. But if you play in a story-driven title with the story is 90% of it, and you are showing it like it's a movie, okay, then I know possibly most of these viewers, maybe they are not interested in buy the game anyway. But even though it's just putting all the content out there without any actual added value or like interest or anything. So I'm not sure how it could be like regulated, or which way it should be like the best way to do it.
Like for instance, if someone sends you an email and be like, hey, I'm a streamer, I'm going to bring so many eyes to your game, you should give it to me for free, you know, as opposed to like a genuine interest in wanting to play the game, you know, because I feel like that's where I see a lot of the things going sideways with how content creators approach a developer. And then I'm assuming that if you provide a key, the expectation is you're going to be providing content with that. Yes.
Yeah, and it's very sad when somebody asks you for 6 keys or 4 keys, and then eventually you see these keys right away on sale, and that's doing like a bad favor for all the genuine streamers or genuine journalists that want to just review the title.
Right.
I guess as a developers, we want to see that like that real, true, genuine interest in our title. Because of course we can just toss 1,000 keys out there, but we don't feel particularly well when you have been working and you have been struggling so much, and then you need to just give keys to people, and still today I received emails or messages on Twitter. Okay, can you give me 2 keys so I will give you a good review, and that's like against I think the true discussion between content creators and indie devs. And I think, for instance, with you it was more natural and more like genuine, the relationship. We meet each other, you like the game, and then eventually we have no issue with you just showing things in advance, and because you respect the embargo and everything, no?
That's one thing we need to talk about for sure is embargoes, but keep going. Yeah, that's one I want to hit on so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible because I think it was like 1 week before launching the title, we saw a Brazilian streamer just asking how to solve this puzzle.
I remember this.
And I told the guy, okay, this game is not live yet. I haven't provided you any key. What are you talking about, man?
So just to explain this, I don't know if you guys, probably everybody's familiar with what an embargo is, but a lot of the times when a game is close to release, maybe a reviewer or content creator was entrusted with a key before the game is released, with the stipulation that nothing about this game is to be released before a certain date. There's tons of reasons why developers go with embargoes, or publishing companies, whichever one was the deciding factor in it. But let's say the game was to release on the 9th. You got the key on the 4th. So you are entrusted now with that content, and given the added advantage of being able to be one of the first to create content with it, like if you're a YouTuber or a reviewer or anything like that, but you're not allowed to show anything until the 8th, you know, for instance, and then the game releases on the 9th. So like when I saw that, I really was quite upset because, you know, you're entrusting these keys. Keep those embargoes. That's just the one thing I want to hit home, because I feel like nothing really sullies your name as a content creator as to being that person who wanted to be so badly the first to create the content that you're going to break that embargo. Because then what it ended up, he was live, right? When this happened, and he got stuck on the infamous brick puzzle now at this point. If it's not infamous to you yet, go play the game. You'll know what we're talking about. And was reaching out for help.
And he was like, actually like, pissed off, like, hey, help me, we are live. We are and the embargo in our case, it was until chapter 6 from the 24 chapters. You know, you could stream until chapter 6, so it was 25%.
But it was even before that date, if I remember, that you were allowed to show any of it.
Yeah, even before that date, and he was like in chapter 10, and he was like, hey, help me, we are live, my viewers are concerned because we are not moving forward. And I was, okay, man, I mean, so you shouldn't be streaming this. And this is one issue. Is like another issue I want to point out is, and I know this is not like solvable here, but the piracy is terrible. And I'm sure there will be a way to control it, and we could do like things to block people that are getting like illegal copies. But I think one thing that a streamer or a content creator could do is, at the end of the video, just like try to promote like good behavior in the audience. And we've seen many videos of our game that didn't even just put the link of our of a Steam page or tell the audience, okay, this is one ending, but there's 6 alternative endings. So if you like the game, just help the developers and just get your copy, or add it to your wish list or anything like that. So. Sometimes you feel like the content creator is just using the content just to make their bunch of videos, and they are more important than the game and the creator. So they only have the end slate with their own Twitter account and everything, and they don't care about the game at all. And that feels really bad, because you have like sometimes 1 million views or whatever the amount is, and you have no credentials whatsoever of the content, and people don't know that if there's more endings or more stuff to do with the title. So.
And just giving credit where credit is due, I feel, is really good form too, guys, because I'm sure there's a lot of content creators in here right now. I mean, you are creating content with someone else's content.
Exactly.
You know, so I know in my case, like I've been given keys to games, and I'll still promise to this day, when I stream a game or anything, I'm going to still do it honestly. You know, like I've never gone to a developer and been like, I'm going to make sure this looks good, I'm going to give you an amazing review. I'm just straight up honest. What if I don't end up liking the game? I've never trashed anyone's passion project, but I've easily been able to say, well, this isn't really for me. But, you know, here's the game, you might enjoy it. I feel like I've always liked to ride that line with a lot of things, because, I mean, just because I don't like it doesn't mean somebody else doesn't, right? Like, I could have brought eyes to a game that I may not care for, but somebody else did. But do you feel like sometimes that people will do that unfairly? Like, they're like, I'm going to give you this really great thing, and then turn around and just used it for like clickbait or trash title, or, you know, try to create some sort of controversy with it. Well,
I do believe it's some sort of like unbalanced relationship when you ask a key for free, and then in some way the creator or the game developer expects at least a decent review. Even unconsciously, because you are giving the game for free. So it's I would say it's a kind of a toxic behavior a little bit. So when you're giving the key to someone that you trust in advance, so like you, and you have the game a few days in advance, and you can review it and be honest about it, that's perfectly fine. But when the game is already out there and you have this constant chase for getting this game for free because I will review it, if eventually then the review is also bad, you kind of feel, okay, you could have like just
you could have
get the
found
game
this out
yourself.
already.
And then say whatever you want, because you are asking me to, for instance, PC reviews, they are kind of okay, but getting a Switch code is very hard. They are expensive. And they are not easy to. I cannot create like 1,000 Switch codes like.
Yeah,
easily.
I actually don't even know how that works. I don't own a Switch.
Yeah, I need to ask them. I need to ask them to our publisher. They are very limited. So if you have to make all this effort, you kind of expect at least a decent review, because you kind of in fear that the people that is going to review your game already likes it or finds it interesting at least. So it's not going to trash absolutely your title. And if that happens, you feel twice as bad, no? Because
it's been out, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I know it is how it works, and I understand why it works like that. But still, I think it's kind of to a certain point unfair to the game developer. And then we always prefer when any streamer or content creator just buys the game and just plays it and shows it and says his word. Otherwise, you are kind of in a foggy situation. No? It's kind of I don't know. It's strange or it's weird sometimes.
Let's see. Yeah, for indie games. See, yeah, and that's the thing too, because I know like when we were talking about embargoes and stuff like that too, like maybe kind of explain a little bit more why certain dates and embargoes are set. Like why, I understand for like AAA companies, some people want to just immediately go that there's some nefarious reason. Well, the game sucks, so that's the reason why they don't want us to show it early. But like from an indie dev standpoint, there's a lot of legitimate reasons why embargoes are important. And I'd love for you to let the content creators know why certain embargoes get put into place for a specific reason.
Well, in our case, it was because, again, it's a story-driven title. So the story is the most important component. It's more than the gameplay or the mechanics or the system. It's just you need to find out who this guy is, why he's in this situation, and everything. So if you, a day before release, show the entire content to your audience, the game is automatically like devaluated. It's like if you knew how Star Wars is ending 2 days before the premiere, how many people is going to watch it regardless? It's a Star Wars, so it will be a huge amount of people anyway. But in an indie title, you feel like you are losing your edge a little bit. So you want to play with mystery and with the thriller component. So if you want to drive people interested in the premise and the story, you don't want to disclose the whole story before the title is already out. So
yeah, that's fair.
That's in our case, it was the main reason to set this embargo and to allow. It's like when we do on events, we don't put the entire game in a show. We just put the first chapter, so you have like a glimpse of the atmosphere and the tone and everything. And then if you like it, then you're gonna buy it and play it entirely, of course.
Yeah. And like, I know a couple of other things too, is like, you want to make sure it's reviewed fairly, you know, like instead of just putting it out there for the sake of putting it out there. So that was, that's totally okay, Irvin. But so just that's one thing I just wanted to make sure to hit home with some people. Is just like when you're wanting to work with these developers and you're reaching out for keys and stuff like that, just always read through the fine print in your emails. It most definitely, if you're one of the privileged ones to get a game early before it's released, just abide by them embargoes. It's such a better look for you as a content creator too, because you don't know what devs know each other. You don't know who's talking. Yeah. Like, I'm friends with even some community managers on games, and just the massive quantity of things that she lets me know. She's like, oh, why are they doing it this way? Or, you know, and constantly barraging the same person over and over and over and over for the same thing. It's not a good professional look. So I feel like it's a lot easier to not just always reach out for every game, right? Like, reach out for a game that's actually in your wheelhouse, something that you're actually interested in. That growing your community isn't how many free keys you can get thrown at you, you know? So
yeah. And also this is some important factor that it's a bit of unfair and cruel maybe, but we sometimes as developers, we are not allowed to give keys to everyone asking. We need to forward this email to the publisher, and usually the publisher has like a threshold of amount of followers, amount of viewers.
Sure.
So if you don't reach that amount, they're not getting the key for you, because
Right.
you are not going to generate that amount of awareness with your videos or with your streams. So sometimes even if we would like to provide keys to everyone asking, it's not totally our call to do it.
And it's not a
And
viable
also
business
time-
solution in the long run
Yeah.
either, right? You know,
Yeah.
if you gave a key to absolutely everybody who wanted one.
Exactly. How do you find if you are worth it or not giving you the key? And you need to put the limit at some point in your followers, no? And also timing is very important. I would say before launching the title or during launch, it's a crucial moment. But 3 months after release, if you're asking for a key, it's very unlikely that I will give you a key, because our awareness window has passed already.
Yeah, your PR has been happening. Yeah.
Exactly. So the timing is very important, and nail that email in the right moment. So we are like, okay, let's spread the word out there, because we are 2 days before release or 1 week before release.
Well, that brings up a good question too. So when do you think is that sweet spot? Because I know there's also that crunch time, right? Where getting to your emails will be a little bit tougher because you're probably putting final touches on it. Would you say like a month or two ahead of time if someone's fortunate enough to hear about it, maybe a couple of weeks beforehand? Or is there even a formula you think that really matters in that case? I mean, you've discussed when's too late.
Yeah, I mean, probably 2 months in advance, it's just right in the middle of crunch, just finishing and fixing all the things that are not working. I would say maybe 1 week before launch, because everything is already done, and the mistakes will be fixed in an update. No, the potential bugs will be fixed. But 1 week in advance or so is when the PR effort usually comes forward. So between 1 and 2 weeks in advance is the sweet spot, just to show your interest in the title, so we can just manage, because that by then is when the PR company, or sometimes the publisher, if they manage PR internally, is when they are like sharing keys to journalists in order to have this 1-day review, right? When you launch the title. So that's the exact time when they are doing that, and it's easier for them just to share codes with journalists and share codes with content creators at the same time than doing it 1 week after launch or out of timing, because they move into another project and then they start the process in all over again. So it's you need to be like really aware of game dev timing to nail that sweet spot. Yeah.
Sure. So then would you say then if the developing team has a publisher, is it best to reach out to the publisher than themselves? Or do you still think it's better practice to reach out to the developing team?
Well, it depends. If you have the chance to meet the team, like it was our case, it's better to just reach us directly. If we don't know the people asking, very likely we will just forward this email to the publisher.
Okay.
I remember like answering emails like, this is not our call, but here you have like this guy from our publisher that he will provide you the code, or he will take your case and be in touch with you. So if I don't know the people asking, it's very likely that I will just forward this email to our publisher.
That's fair.
But I think it's obviously better if you know us and you can reach us directly, because we have something already going on personally, and we have interest in you showing the title and trying it. So it's even better, of course.
Yeah, so don't get offended if you weren't chosen for a key either, because I mean I see that happen a lot too, and maybe you do draw in the numbers, but then like Irvin made a fair point right here too, trying to play stay with a Fortnite community built behind them. You know, you might have looked at their content and realized that may not necessarily line up, because also understand if they're giving you a key, they're looking at what's in the benefit for them as well. Like this is kind of a business relationship, right?
Exactly.
You know, you're not just giving them a key because you're like, hey, you're a good person, I want to save you $15. Here you go. You know, like
exactly.
there is an understanding there that we're kind of helping each other.
And I remember doing that study, that review in the first emails that we received, and seeing some channels on YouTube with only Minecraft videos, and then asking for a key. And I knew that this channel wasn't for us. And on the other hand, if I see lots of small indie titles, narrative titles, then I see this channel is for us. Right. So, like you said it perfectly. It doesn't make any sense if your audience is just driven to something else. So
right. Yeah, so that just kind of goes back to my point too. Don't just throw in for every key just because you think that's what's going to grow your content, is just to constantly be racking up all of these games. Just be smart about it for you too. You're wanting to grow your own channel. You're wanting to grow your own brand. And it may not line up with what you've built your community around, So, okay, let's see. Do you use tools to pick content creators? That's a question I just saw. Is there specific tools?
I don't. And to be honest, all the content creators like dynamics, it was totally new for me. Of course, I knew about content creation, but
this is your first published game, am I right?
Yeah, we did release some mobile titles, but this is our first like full-time professional proper PC and console title. So yeah, it was our first time, and this whole dynamics is completely new for us. So I didn't even know there was like tools to pick up the best content creators. Now I need to try them.
They might have just maybe I'm paraphrasing the question. Like, did you seek out channels? Like, let's say I want to say the most well laid out email, probably from your standpoint, if someone were to reach out for a key. Very succinct and to the point, right? Don't flutter all these beautiful words about how great you are, how great I am. Well, like, I'm a content creator in love with your game. It aligns with the content that I create, and providing links for you, I would imagine, makes things a lot easier. And again, not to Fortnite, maybe to independent games or something that's like along those lines. Thank you very much for your time. Sign it, right? Made it quick to the point. So, like, would you say those were probably better tools?
Yeah, I would say like a proper email that shows, again, interest and knowledge about the game. Sometimes we receive emails and it's just the standard email that you can say is a template that you're sending over. But if they are mentioning something about the game, or even we received even like emails saying, okay, I played the game already because I bought it, and now I'm asking a couple of keys to do giveaways on my channel because I really loved it, blah, blah, blah. So then it's showing like interest, it's showing like they had like a motivation, they played it already, so it doesn't feel like, hey, I want to get your game for free, because you feel that sometimes they are just looking the new releases on Steam and they are just chasing everyone to get more games for free. Copy and pasting that
email, removing one name, putting in the other.
Yeah. So at least in your text, it should be somehow related to the title, to the nature of the title, to somehow, and you need to be creative. And I do the same when I approach publishers. I cannot approach publishers with the same email. I need to make a connection, to build that relationship, just like we do with Queen in the game. Just to need to build it out and to show about that publisher, and from their previous titles, and you see some similarities between some of the titles and your title, and then you make the case a little bit. You cannot just throw a template email, because probably this email won't be seen. In our case, we are indies and we are small, and we will read that email ourselves. But in the case of a publisher, it's going to be some sort of assistant of someone. So you need to like do it in a very like smooth way, and you need to do the proper approach, I would say. But I would say it's easier with us because we are indie devs and we are pretty much like normal people, small teams. But anyway, you need to do some research before approaching people and ask for keys.
And I would feel like if you're a serious content creator, you're no slouch to how much work it actually takes to grow a community and make your content successful. So I would imagine taking that extra time just to do your due diligence and researching the development team, the game, and all that stuff is not going to take that much time out of your day. Let's see. Do we have some other questions coming up here? Dave has probably been keeping them for me. And do we have any specific questions? I want to be respectful of your time because I know we're probably nearing about an hour here. Unless you're just having so much fun, we're just going to keep you all day.
I do. I'm having
picking your brain for it. Let's see. I see Chaka has one here. What is a good way to show indie devs appreciation and support? Might have to, let's see. What is a good way to show an indie dev maybe your appreciation and support? Okay. I'm going to... And then JP in here too.
Do you mean, like we were saying before, like just being sure you created the stuff and you include all the links? I mean, this is like so basic stuff, but I've seen many, many, many videos without including the credits of the game and the link to the platform. And it sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
lots of them. So I think that was the question.
Yes, I was trying to see if I was articulating it the correct way for them. I accidentally deleted a comment. I didn't mean to, and I was trying to highlight it for myself. I'm still a little new to Mixer. I'm sorry. Sometimes I accidentally ban people or whatever. I didn't ban him, right? Okay, no, he's still talking. Let's see. So from JB Fancy Space Trash, who's a lovely individual. Let's see. I'm curious about the very first steps involved with fundraising financing for a project like this. If you previously unpublished, if you wouldn't mind sharing your experience. So yeah, we briefly touched a little bit on that. So very first steps from that to fundraising or publishing. I know it's kind of answered it a little bit in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's always difficult, and it feels like every time unless you make a huge hit or you are very successful, you need to start over again with every single project. You need to raise funds for at least do the part of the game that it's like you can show and you can tease and you can pitch to people. So let's say you're building like a prototype, or you're building like a vertical slice, which is like a slice cut of the content, even though it's not the entire content, but you can see all the mechanics and all the different elements of the game. So you can pitch to publishers if you are, or pitch to investors, or trying to raise funds in some other way. So you need to funds to start all this process. In our case, it was a public loan. So it can be private investment, it can be your own savings, which we have done in the past, whatever, and it depends on how big is your team. But you need to be aware that you need to cover all that until you are able to just go to events and show the material and try to find a partner. From that point, the partner can provide their marketing, their media tools, they can afford cost of ratings and such. And then usually you sign and they provide like an upfront fee. And that upfront fee is like a minimum guarantee, which means that all the first sales will be 100% to them. So they recoup all the investment they are doing with you to sign your project. And from a certain point in advance, you will share royalties with them. It depends on every contract. It can be 50-50. It can be 60% for you, 40% for them. There are lots of formats and distributions. Mm-hmm. But usually you do all that, and then eventually you start earning royalties from the sales in all different platforms. If you are lucky enough, they will be enough to sustain your business. But when we are doing indie titles, it's very unlikely.
You're not retiring in a few months, is what you're saying?
No, unfortunately not. No, my flight to Miami is not yet.
Not yet. We're not going to ship you to Miami, dude. Come on, we're going to get you somewhere cooler than that.
So yeah, it starts all over again now. Let's say, even though our game has been profitable, so we kind of we are in the benefit stage now, but still, it's not enough just to have I have the security now to work 2 years or 1 year in the next project. No, you need to start over again with the same cycle.
And that might be kind of along the lines, because I see Socket Monk was saying he'd love to hear what makes one publisher a better choice than another, or self-publishing. So you had kind of said that early on that for you, the funding, you need it was just better for you having it up front as opposed to self-funding or crowdfunding seems to be a trend we see now as well.
Well, the thing is that crowdfunding, we haven't experienced yet crowdfunding platforms. What I know from other colleagues is that it requires also a lot of money, a lot of effort to do a successful crowdfunding campaign. So you need to maybe work 3 or 4 months, and of course nothing is guaranteed. So we in our stage, we had a very risky small project, and being our first real professional title, we didn't want to launch it on our own because we had no knowledge or understanding of anything, even though Steam platform or ratings or anything. So it was a natural choice for us just to go along with a partner. And how to pick up the right publisher or not is also very, very difficult. We have had other offers with more money upfront, but the terms, the catalog of that publisher wasn't the right fit,
Like long term. Yeah.
yeah, the long term, it didn't feel like it was something for us. So then we evaluate everything, and then we made our decision. But it's like it comes in a way that until you start working with those people, it's based on trust and your perception, and your gut feeling a little bit. But you really never know how it's going to work out until you actually start working with the guys and launch the game and see how they're doing the marketing and everything. And I think so far so good. We have no complaints. It's been really good for us. I mean, for our project, it was very niche and very different or unique and risky. I think we did good enough. But yeah, it really depends on your. You need to know your baby before signing with anyone. No? You need to evaluate and analyze what you have in hands.
Excellent. Let's see. Another one I have here is let's see. How important is art direction? Is one that I see there.
It is. It is important, and it's difficult to handle sometimes, especially when you have like the struggle of not having like a solid team for 2 years. It's not common, or sometimes you can't because you don't have the resources, you don't have enough money just to have all this stuff during the entire development. So you need to make adjustments, and then you need to have a very talented artist, but he can only work part-time because you cannot afford him the entire...
Because again, we're not retiring next month. Yeah.
Exactly. So you need to balance things out. And just like I mentioned before, that we have had like 7-8 people and then 3 people, you understand that the flow is flexible. And this is a problem that hopefully we will fix for this next project because we want to have like a more solid structure. So the people working initially should work the entire project, and having people in and out is always difficult to handle. And sometimes you are forced to do it because of for financial reasons. But yeah, it's very important. And at this point, even though we have had different artists, we had like an overall art direction or rules, let's say. So we tried to keep the game with a kind of like a spine, let's say, even though it has difference between artists, but it should be like understandable, or it should be cohesive in a way.
Nice. Let's see. And then Sakamike says he would love to hear more about the writing process.
Whoa.
Because this one's very, very story heavy. Very story heavy.
It is. And the writing was very, very important, and Anna did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
especially because it was she had experience in other formats, but it was our first like interactive branching story. So it was a challenge for her. It was a challenge for the entire team, just to make sure the different choices in the game had an impact, but it was manageable. You cannot branch out every single choice, otherwise you have like hundreds of
that's the good one to go on right there too, because you have alternate endings.
Yeah, but the thing is that you need to eventually converge again to the same, because if you have a plot and you have something to say, you cannot make it so randomly that it looks like it doesn't matter what's going on. You need to. So what we did is we use. She did a lot of research, and I think we use, without even being so conscious about it, we use this kind of bending stories technique. I think it's what the guys from Quantic Dream use. It's kind of that you are branching out to make choices, but eventually everything comes to the same place. For instance, in our case, the puzzles were common. So even though you have like a different journey until the puzzle, then the puzzle is for everyone. And for every single path comes to the same puzzle, and then you open up again. And the endings, it was quite simple. It was at the end of in the final chapter, you converge all the paths in one single node, and then depending on different variables, depending on your time away versus time stay, and depending on your bonding with Queen and different variables, then you decide which is the right ending. But it was a decision made in code in the very final chapter. Okay, I'm gonna pick the ending 1 or 2 or 3 based on all the other statistics that we have gathering while you were playing during the journey.
That's interesting. I can't even, to me, my brain can't even wrap around like how much has to go into that. Maybe it's simpler than my mind makes it to be, or I just keep thinking you're just with this blackboard with like a line. If they do this, you go to here. And like, I would imagine that maybe that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, it is. She was a bit, yeah, she was going nuts at the end because the trees are quite big at the end, and lots of, especially when you have different objects to collect and different rooms to unlock, and everything gets quite messy and complicated. But she kept a good track of everything, and I don't know how she did it, but she kept a good tracking of everything, and everything was pretty like balanced and
no, I mean, it worked out great. I think I only gotten like 3 endings, but supposedly I got the good one. You told me. So I was like, yeah. I managed to finally get that one. Oh, of course, Jon Snow. Welcome on in, by the way. We're actually in the Q&A portion. I've been trying to refresh this list here that Dave has been so kind to, in case I missed anything. And by the way, Socket Monk just said he bought your game.
Oh,
he's a fantastic streamer, by the way. So I'm going to hold a fire under him to stream it because I think his community would be great for it. Let's see. Let's see. I hear another one that says, I may have also Captain E-Rock. Here we go. You guys are really, it's an amazing game. Let's see. In case it hasn't been asked, why did you decide to go with Steam? Contrary to other game launchers, to be fair, Epic wasn't doing its thing yet, right? When you very first launched. So that is a kind of a big question now on gamers' minds, the Steam versus Epic debate.
Yeah. Well,
so that might make this question quite easy, Jon Snow, for you. Like when it first came out on PC, I don't think Epic had a store yet.
Exactly. We didn't have a choice. And even though Steam was a bit crowded already when we launched the game, and we knew that it's going to be difficult to sell, it was the easiest platform to launch. And it's a good one because you can find out all the bugs that appear suddenly before jumping into consoles, which I
think I found a few for you.
Yeah, I mean, consoles are very...
Nothing like finding them live either. What can I say?
No, but it's true. I think it's a good way to just discover all the small bugs or big bugs that you can have, and before starting the console process, because it's way more complicated to change console version and to patch it than on Steam, that you can do it like right away.
Oh, nice.
Basically, Valve doesn't give a shit. Can you say? I mean, the reviewing process is just you can just put whatever you want to, until someone's complaining about it, it's gonna be fine. So it's way easier just to launch on Steam and just test the waters before actually moving into consoles. So now maybe we can have the discussion. I think so far Epic is still very limited to quite successful, quite popular titles. So it's going to be difficult still for indie titles just to approach them.
I think so, yeah.
Because it's very curated still. So unless it opens up a little bit, and then it will get crowded again, just like Steam. So it's kind of a...
Would you find this to be the case? Because with other independent developers that I've talked to, the biggest downfall for the Epic Store for them, not the money cut, which obviously is much more enticing, especially for a smaller developer, I would imagine being able to put more in your pocket means so much more than a AAA company, but the lack of forums. That you're kind of left on your own devices to create that space for fans of the game to come together on your own, which can be a tall ask, I would imagine, for a smaller team that's already having to do so many other things that you can't parcel out.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch
or
of
is that
stuff
a big deal for you?
There's a bunch of stuff on Steam that I personally don't use, but I found out that people is very active on forums and on the achievements.
Oh, we love to talk about things, regardless how good or not we're gonna, words we use. Gamers
it's amazing.
Are vocal.
And the cars, and then the exchange of things, and so I'm not sure how valuable is that compared to just the cut that Steam applies to your benefit in the turnover. So maybe it's not worth it, and maybe it's better just to have less sales with a bigger chunk of the revenue. I don't know, probably. So far, Steam is still our, in terms of units sold, is the best one for us. But the thing is that we have sold a lot in Asia, in China, and Korea, where the price point is lower. So for instance, if you have like $10 in the US or Europe, naturally, Valve recommends you to put it like in half in certain countries in Asia. So in China, for instance, it's like $5.
Oh, nice.
It's like they recommend automatically just to put the price like lower. So even though we sell a lot in China or in Korea, the price point was lower. But in terms of units sold, Steam has worked quite well for us. So I'm still I still defend the Steam, even though it's like overcrowded with games and such. But I think if you can find something interesting or unique about your title, you can still sell
Oh,
really
absolutely.
well on Steam.
So are you not on Epic Store then at all right
No,
now? No?
I think we publisher tried, but they're still like in the process, or maybe they got simply rejected. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm
They
not sure the
haven't
process
updated that.
is. I just figured Epic had
Probably
to throw a bunch of money at you first, and then you just agreed. But no, I'm waiting for everyone to get all,
not yet.
it's been such a hot button topic. It's been, for me, it's just been more amusing to sit back and just go, all right, let's see what they're saying about it today. But from an indie dev standpoint, I did like the idea of you getting more money in your pocket, because a lot of it is a self-funding thing for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And it that could mean food on your table or a
Yeah.
dance class for your kid, as opposed to, like just putting more money in a huge publisher's pocket. Let's see. I have another one here. Is your team virtual, or do you all work in the same space? I know you and Danny are local to each other, right?
Yeah, we work. We have two members. One is in Madrid. Our office is in Barcelona, so we are 5 in Barcelona. But we have a 2D animator now working in Madrid. He did all the Queen animations, pixel art animations, and in the rooms and everything. And he's working in Madrid. And then eventually we have had a freelancer in some islands in Spain, so it's not in our office either. And then our musician is in Russia. So even though it's a work for hire thing, it's not like in the payroll. He's very active. He will work in our next projects too, and he's in Russia. So we kind of are used to work remotely, but I would say 80% of our team is in Barcelona.
I say it's kind of the way of the world now, right? You got this internet, this fancy thing right here
Exactly.
that's connected so much of us around the world. Sometimes we find we like people that don't live around us a lot more than we do the ones that do, or maybe just me. Okay.
And it makes more interesting. It makes it more interesting, no?
And I mean, I bet the time difference though, like depending on you and Russia can't be that far off, right? I'm trying to think. You're GMT plus 1, right?
Yeah, and Russia is not an issue, but the time zones are crazy because we have partners in China and partners in the US. So
right,
pretty much when the US is going to
1
sleep,
for me,
Chinese,
it's 8 for you.
when you're going to sleep, the Chinese people are waking up. So it's pretty much 24/7, just answering or receiving emails. It's kind of crazy, and we save some time for us, but it's very hectic.
Well, where is Pqube out of?
It's in Bristol, in UK.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's all over the place. Because I know like time zones. I tell you what, you never think about it until you start doing stuff like this and realize all the different people you've got to talk to throughout the day that are 6, 7, 8 hours difference from you. And so you've got to debate. I guess I'm just getting up at 3 a.m. So it's a normal time for this person I'm trying to work with. I'll be the one to take
especially when you need to take into account that, okay, these guys are going to leave the office, so I need to do it quickly because in Taipei it's already 6 p.m. So you need to be like aware of these things sometimes.
Yep. No, yeah, I've had to do that before, and it's okay. We suffer for our art. It's just what you do, right? Let's see. Any unique challenges working with U.S. markets as an international studio?
Not especially. I mean, I have to say that the US hasn't been like a huge market for us on Steam, for instance.
Interesting.
Or in consoles in general. Consoles are tough. Switch is probably the best one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Switch we have released only on North America and Europe. So we are yet to release on Asia, but. No issues in particular with the U.S. market, but also on the negative side, not so much awareness. Even though we have had like good reviews in some American sites, and our highlight of I think our like the highlight of the reviewing process was the Washington Post for us, which was like amazing, because they don't write about games much.
Right.
It was like Anna was doing like some research of reviews, and she was like, "What?" And it was like a nice article in the Washington Post. It was a 9 out of 10, out of
Nice.
nowhere. We didn't know about that, and
You
it was
got
like
in
our
front of that right gamer that works for that magazine
highlight.
or newspaper. That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
and
on your
that
fridge, right?
yeah.
Cut
It's
it
like
out. It's
framed
gonna...
and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice,
it's
nice. I mean, I
but
would
yeah, I
keep
mean,
that. I don't
no,
know
no,
about you.
it's a highlight. It's a highlight. And it has been great in terms of conventions and media and everything. But in terms of sales, it's been slow. I guess like everywhere else, it's not easy to sell nowadays. So no particular complaints about the U.S. market, but still, if you compare all the metrics, you see that China and Korea on mobile and on Steam are like the really like the first markets with difference. And
Interesting.
yeah, it's well, it's also because we localize in Chinese and Korean, and we kind of anticipated that, and luckily for us, we did all the localization
Right.
because
That's got to be
it has.
hugely important to nail down fairly early, right? Is that something you can roll out slowly over time, or do you kind of have an idea of what you want to localize from day one release?
Well, sometimes if you localize like in a different stage, sometimes it's good because you divide the potential revenue in chunks, no? And then and in 3 months or 6 months, we will do that, and it will generate more revenue. So sometimes it's an interesting like method. We try to launch in all possible languages like right away in day one, just to increase like in general PR companies and publishers prefer to just condense as much platforms as possible in the same day, because the PR effort and because they don't want to bother the Polygon guy twice. They want to bother this guy just one single time.
Sure.
And if you can launch Steam and Switch and PS4 the same day, it's better for the publisher. It's better for the PR company. But it's very difficult. I would say almost impossible to do it because the console process is very complex. And for instance, we had in mind to launch Steam on an Xbox One, and we failed Xbox like a couple of times. And then eventually we just launched Steam, and then a couple of weeks later we launched Xbox because it was just impossible to do it at the same day.
See, I feel like PC, and this could just be me not understanding the process, which is completely fair. I feel like my brain instantly wants to say consoles have to be easier because that's set, right? If you're making a game for PS4, you know the insides of that PS4, you know how it runs. And PCs, I feel like, would be more complicated because you don't know all the different variables of someone building their own machine or buying a factory pushed out the door. So PC is still easier, even with all those different variables about what could be compatible with what or what's causing this to break down.
I think it's precisely for that it's a lot easier on PC because, of course, I cannot replicate the exact same like graphic board that you have, and maybe the game doesn't work for you. But again, Valve, they don't care about that, and you just push the game, and then you try to weather the storm. But
you just work through it after they blow up on Steam reviews, right? That's how it works, right? Just review bomb it until you fix it the way we like it.
Exactly. But what happens with consoles is that the QA process is done by the platform, and it's very exhaustive. So they will try a million things. They will try what happens if the controller is out of battery and we lose internet connection, and then you just reset the game, and then you just log in from another console in another place with the same account. What's happening? Do you have a warning message for that? So it's kind of a super edgy cases, and they try everything, and it's very easy just to the technical requirement list for consoles is huge, and it's very complex to do it like the first time. I think I haven't known anyone just doing it like I have done the first time, and the QA just was clear. It's you always have like reports back, and this and that you need to fix, and it's a very slow process. You need to start like 2 or 3 months in advance of your target date just to start with the QA process, because it's a back and forth and it's slow. And we didn't know that. We just realized with this project that it takes like quite a lot of time.
Which one was easier? Which of the consoles? Are you willing to bust one out over the other?
Well, the thing is that we had some extra external help for PS4 and Switch. So we manage ourselves the Xbox One and also mobile. So PS4, I think because the process and you know exactly how long it's going to take for them to review the game and then send back the report. Everything is pretty clear. It's on PS4. On Sony is like the clearest process.
Really?
On Nintendo, you need to submit, and then it's around 2 weeks that we will give you back the report. So it's kind of an estimate, and you never know what exact day is going to be like their answer date. And PS4, they have like a more like schedule, and then you have booked certain day, and then 3 days from that you will receive the report with the QA, and they are very specific, and they have tested this and that with 2 consoles, and this has failed 3 out of 5 times, this has failed 1 out of 5 times. In other platforms it's more like, we found this issue, but you don't know if they found the issue playing 10% of the game or 90% of the game. They just told you, we found this issue, and you need to fix that, and then you need to fix that and resubmit, and maybe you are just missing another issue that will come up later. So it's you're going kind of blind in the whole process, and PS4 is more like certain in their.
That's interesting to me. I don't know why that actually shocks me that the PlayStation was easier, because I feel like I see less indie games on PlayStation across the board out of the consoles.
The thing is, PlayStation is the worst of the platforms in terms of sales. I think PlayStation users are more interested in AAA stuff than in indie games.
Okay, that's fair.
So the process was easier, but the sales were the worst. In consoles, Xbox One was a lot better than PS4
for indie titles, and then the Switch is just killing it for it. I mean, I don't own a Switch, but one of the biggest selling points for someone like me is I kind of want to buy it because of all the indie titles they're putting on there. And it's exciting to me to see a console going out that's actually making these games more accessible to people like us PC players that have had access to for all these years, these amazing, fantastic games that just like, if you can't afford a PC or a gaming PC, you're just not going to get it. And it just, I love it. So I know you're coming out on the Switch soon. Maybe I should have looked at this date here before. So May 2019 on PS4 and Switch?
Yeah, no, Switch we are already out there. We are on the Nintendo eShop. The thing that we are next month is on a limited edition on physical, but digital we are already there.
Excellent.
It actually launched September, I think. September, October it was. So we have been there for a while.
Do you have time for one more question? Because I kind of like this one. John Snow asked, or John Effin Snow, I should tell you is his name. It's just so amazing to say all of it together. But it said, so players usually enjoy being able to test games before release. How is it from the developer side? Did you gain enough valuable information from that? And would you prefer closed or open testing?
Well, I think it's an interesting one. I think it really depends on the nature of the title. And again, when you are doing a game based on gameplay and on mechanics and on a system, I think it's better to have like probably an open testing so you can have more feedback about it. When your game, or you're trying to do something unique and you want to surprise users, you kind of lose the surprise factor. So the one thing that we wanted to have is that wow factor, or that what's going on with this title, what it's about, and it's different, and that's why we kept it as much as secret as possible. And testing the game, it wasn't, of course, I think we suffer from lack of QA, especially in the later part of the game, because when we showed it in events and everything, it was always the beginning of the game, and how you can test the ending of the game, the second half of it, where you don't want to self-spoil the story in events or in testers. So the amount of testers was way less in the second half of the game, and that's why we suffer issues from certain puzzles that needed more QA or certain aspects of the story. But I think in our case, it was needed to make it that way. Probably in a game where again, the experience is more completed with the gameplay and with other factors, probably I'm not against an open beta, and it might be interesting. But I think for story-driven titles, I think it should be like closed or just a limited amount of testers.
I can understand that, yeah, because like even with the alternate endings, most of the gameplay leading up to it is relatively the same. So
Exactly.
it's just depending on maybe you turned left instead of right, which whatever your algorithm would decide which one that triggered. Yeah, that was an interesting question. And the reason why I wanted to ask it, because I do remember before the game, like that I was reporting back to you on certain things before it released, like trying to be like, hey, this broke or this didn't help or I don't get it. Because I know we're all going to have to like come around to that brick puzzle. You know it was going to happen. It was the one time that I was like so happy I had the developing team in my back pocket, because I'm not like a puzzle god, but I don't think that I'm that bad off that I couldn't get through a lot of them after some time. But there was this one puzzle, and I'm sure you've been beaten to death over it and berated from players everything about this puzzle. It is a very unique puzzle, but extremely complicated to figure out. And it's taken different forms, like from where it started to where it is now. Yeah. I don't. Would you say that's been the biggest feedback you've ever heard from this game, bar none?
Yeah.
Was that puzzle?
Yeah, the puzzle, the brick one at the beginning. Then it's not that it has different forms. It's that we changed it just to make it easier.
Oh, okay, yeah, I misspoke. I didn't say that properly.
But I think we failed anyway, because it's still the same. I mean, it's equally difficult, but people now have solutions online like yours, so they
shameless
just find
self-plug. When you get stuck, Captain E-Rocket Socket Monk, you can go to youtube.com/Alicia Finley and find your hints and tips. All right. Anyway, as you were.
And this is why the only controversy and the infamous brick puzzle then switched into other puzzle that is not solvable by any quick guide, which is the mirror maze.
Right.
And the mirror maze, you need to, or the furnace one, you need to solve that yourself.
Those are random ones, which is nice though. It is nice that you had some random ones in there, because then it's easily solvable. You just a little patience is all it really took.
Well, we have had all sorts of complaints, and we know we failed the puzzles, and I take responsibility because I designed most of them, and I think I went too far. The bottom line of the puzzles were just to add something, a different level of interaction with the title, because most of it is just read and make choices. Mm-hmm. And also there was something underneath that we wanted to generate some sort of negative emotions in the player, which was risky, but we wanted the player to feel the same as the character somehow. So if you face a wall and you have no clue, and that's why we didn't put any hint system or any tutorial or any guide or anything. So it was tough, because usually you have a hint or you have something just to guide you through the puzzle, and we wanted that out of the game, and it was a very risky choice, but it suited the game for us. And again, I think we could have done definitely a better job just with the onboarding to that puzzle. But since every single mini game or every single of these puzzles are different, and they have different rules and different mechanics, there's no way to guide you, or there's no understanding or learning process for the user. It's everything. It's from scratch, and you need to figure that out. And we thought that even though they are complex and they are like very or not so transparent in the rules, that eventually if you stay for a long period of time in front of the puzzle, in front of the input, you find out how it works. But it requires a lot of patience, and that's something that also in general the game requires lots of patience and lots of like diving into yourself and just staying with it. Even though you have no clue, it's like even though you have no clue how to help Queen, you need to stay with him, no? Yeah. And it's the same with the puzzles a little bit. So that's why we kept them like complex. But I know we failed, and we
honestly
took it
though,
like
I still think it was just that one. In my opinion, that's and like Irvin was saying, like the only like really bad reviews about the game are just people who are straight up frustrated that they couldn't figure out that one puzzle. Which, when you're explaining it that way, it makes sense, and it's kind of a shame that a lot of the players didn't realize the intention was to kind of evoke that kind of emotion in yourself, as opposed to just wanting to be able to speed run through the game. So to me, that is still to this day, that was the only one that I'm not sure if you weren't there to give me a nudge that I would have figured out in a reasonable amount of time. Every other one of them makes sense to me with just a little bit of your own research and patience. Like the map one was another one that I was confused that some people didn't get, but I understand one element of it. And I know some of you bought the game, so I'm not going to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything for you. But a lot of them, just by just a small little research, Like Google was my friend there.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, before there was any walkthroughs or anything, just kind of learned something on my own by doing my own research. Maybe we're not supposed to do that nowadays. I don't know.
No, it makes sense.
I felt like that worked out just great.
I mean, Queen is locked, but you're on the outside, so it made sense just to Google yourself and then try to help him from the distance. So it was like the intention, and I know that the big one was definitely out of reach, and I think you remember that because I think we discussed that in the past that this puzzle was the easiest in our game.
Yeah,
and our the guy from the publisher that he is not working there anymore, but he told us this is very easy, this is very like straightforward. I was kind of bored, and then we just took the puzzle to another dimension.
You're like, I'll show you.
I'll show you. Try now. So yeah, it was a bit.
I love that. Like it was a at him, and then he's not there anymore. Let's see here. I'll see. Is that something you have to keep an eye on with such puzzle games? People review bombing because they couldn't solve it. Well, I mean,
it happens.
Is it something enough to worry about that it makes you not do it, though? I mean, like, no.
And I think it's I think it's and we discussed this in the team. It's a true and honest feedback that people just want. There are some certain users that wanted just to have a story, and puzzles took them away from the story. So this combination of puzzles and the story, sometimes it doesn't work. And maybe the puzzle lovers love the puzzles and they get bored of the story. And the story lovers, the visual novel guy, they just want the story and choices. And they don't want to have to deal with puzzles. So it's hard to complain, everyone. And
you can't please every player, right?
It's true that we have had lots of reviews complaining about only the puzzles, and without the puzzles, the game could have like an 8 or a 9. And because of the puzzles, I don't recommend it because the puzzles are so cryptic and so blah blah blah. So it has affected a lot the reviews, and made us thought about the genres of video games and how users are a bit reluctant to change the games they like. They like visual games or they like puzzle games. They want to do their thing, and also it's. Something related to when you make a trailer and you just explain a game, you are going to, many people will be driven to the game and they don't know exactly what they're buying. And they might think it's a point and click adventure because they see a guy and they see an explosion, but they are not reading the description, they are not reading the details of it. So the game is not for them, maybe, but they are already into it, and then you have to suffer the negative review because they were expecting something different, and that's something that we just need to deal with.
Maybe that is the nice thing about moving to Epic. You won't have to read all that.
Well, it's
doesn't sound like they have any intention of putting in a forum, at least at this time. But I think most of the people who are actually looking for these specific types of games, it's pretty easy to filter through those reviews and understand what side of the fence they were landing on when they were making that review. Because I tend to not read a lot of reviews myself. I like to make my own opinions, especially about newer games and stuff like that. I mean, if it's just completely trashing the game just because you couldn't figure it out, like, I don't take much stock in those kinds of reviews. Now, if you wanted to add something of value, talking about the mechanics or the story or how long it took or a good value for, fair, that's a good review. Hit all those beats. But But the issue is that many users are not like you, and I've listened many times. I don't buy anything which is under 85% on Steam because it's not like trustworthy or it's going to fail at some point. So the reviews are really crucial. And for instance, we are now on 69%, which is mixed label, and mixed label goes from 40% to 69%. So being at 70, we are mostly positive. Being at 69, we are already mixed along with all the titles until 40%. I don't think I knew how the percentage worked. So 40 to 69%.
I think it's kind of unfair. I think it's kind of unfair because, again, I understand why the system works like that, but I'm not saying that in Switch is better because we have no reviews and people just buy the game because of the trailer and the description. But on Steam, sometimes you see quite unfair reviews, and maybe sometimes we have seen, oh, the game is great story, it's great atmosphere, but then we have two puzzles that are so badly designed that I don't recommend it. And then you are saying great like 2 or 3 times in the same review that you are just not recommending the game. So I wouldn't be capable of not recommending something that I feel has some great aspects as well.
Right.
It's kind of I don't know. Maybe I would just say my word when it's like really clear, obvious that this game is not working for any reason. No?
Right.
But if I have like a mixed opinion, I wouldn't not recommend the game. But
take my time out to really make a review. Honestly, I think that just kind of boils down to that individual. It's like I kind of look at them like Yelpers. If all they've ever put up was negative stuff, I'm judging you as a person. Like, why are you so hard to please that every review you've ever put up was only when you got angry and you wanted to review on something, So yeah, I know I'm unique in that too. I take the extra step to go, I'm like, let me click on this name and see what other reviews they've done, and then if it's just always like negative because they felt that, I'm like, bah, your review should get pushed aside anyway.
We should have the capacity to make reviews out of reviews, right?
We should. I often said that would be perfect about Yelp. If we were allowed to rebut back like you would with the Better Business Bureau or something, like it's held for 14 days until the business has a time to respond. How many of you out there would keep trashing a place because you got upset if you knew we could call you right back out on, well, you threw the food away and did all of it, We're not talking about what you did to make your experience bad.
review the reviewer. It's that the first like 20 of them, they hurt you a lot. Then somehow you build like a tough skin, and then you just understand that some people's gonna love it, some people's gonna hate it. And so actually we have been talking about this in that maybe if nobody is complaining about anything, it's because you have said nothing different, or you have done just what people were expecting. And somehow, if we want to push the boundaries a little bit in this industry, it's natural that we will make mistakes and we will make people frustrated. I mean,
yeah. It is what it is. I mean, I'm still always going to admire those that were brave enough to put their baby out into the world, because there's so many of us that we let that fear get in the way, because we do live in that day and age where if people hate it, they'll let you know, and vice versa. And I think just even having that little extra something already in your character that's just like, you know what? I love this. I'm passionate about it. I'm going to put it out there. Just knowing it could go either way. I think there's just huge respect goes out for people that are willing to do that. It's a tough thing. If you're going to make something people will love, that means some people are going to hate it. That's what I've often always said. Not everybody's going to like the same thing, right? If everybody liked the same thing, there'd be one video game. There'd be, one way to play it. So instead of just saying it's awful because you hated it, how about just be like, hey, it's not for me. There's constructive ways to do this sort of thing without, having to trash someone's baby. But you've been so gracious with your time. I know we've already ran over probably a little bit longer than you intended to be here.
No problem.
So I don't really see any other questions, I don't think. Let's see. That's true. Has moved away from demos to beta tests. Yeah. I'm trying to, let me see if I can refresh this if you have time for one more here. I don't know if Dave has snagged it. I've been trying to read back and forth. I think I've actually done okay. Let's see. Like keeping up with both. Mention, I think for someone who is introverted, I probably missed it. I'm so sorry. Oh, would you rather give people the chance to demo a game or rather give them the option to return it if they don't like it?
Well, the option to return it is
Steam is quite easy, right?
Steam. Yeah, it's already there, and it's, I think it's 2 hours, no?
It is 2 hours or 2 weeks, whichever happens first. Yeah.
2 hours or 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, refunding is part of the process, and I have no complaints about it, and I wouldn't force anything just to make sure. I think, well, maybe unconsciously, I think we made a mistake that was just we were afraid of making a game too short, because maybe you make a game that is too short and then people are going to complain because I paid $10.
It's the day and age. People really value the length of play to their dollar these days. They really do.
Yeah. And actually it's an issue that publishers, if you pitch them a project that is really short, they are going to have to they will have concerns because they will say, well, maybe people will play it and finish it and return it. So somehow I think we asked the writer to extend the gameplay a little bit, and maybe we threw up a couple of puzzles that weren't needed as much, just to be sure that nobody could complain about the length of the title. And actually, nobody has complained about that.
I think it's right on. Yeah.
But they have complained, oh, this is too long, or this is, you need to stay, this, yeah, so it's always difficult to find the sweet spot.
Urban made a good point. We should have had a segment where, you know how like it's celebrities who read their own Googles or mean tweets about themselves? We should have just had you up here emoting, reading your own stay reviews.
Oh, I would love that.
We should have totally thought about that segment ahead of time. Just like I would have put on some fantastic piano music, zoom in on your face, and just let you.
It wouldn't be difficult to find a bad review.
Do one dramatic reading of a review. One dramatic reading. I don't know if I can cue piano music in time. It's like, what is that segment they call, like, celebrity reads mean tweets?
I can find one if you want, eh?
I think that if you want to do a dramatic reading of one, I think that would be fantastic, actually. There's a segment, right? Let's see. I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm gonna have to make your face way bigger, and then stare into the camera. Steam Dev reads mean reviews. There we go. We've just created our own new segment here. Thank you, Urban. I'm stealing your idea. I'm not above. I'm stealing that. Just like your hot cup of Joe.
I mean, I have one here that is very like. Let me just read this one or the beginning of it, because it's 5.3 hours. Not recommended, obviously. And it says, terrible experience. This game was doing great up to chapter 19, at which point it requires you to find your way a procedurally generated mirror maze with absolutely no useful hint and a navigation system specifically made to enrage you. Never again. I stopped playing after 3 hours of trying to find a solution. So this user clearly hated the mirror maze puzzle.
He probably just kept turning right. Why am I not getting out of it?
But the good thing is that if you're suggesting a maze, you should get lost, right, on a maze. Mm-hmm. So that's what happens. If you just lose track of yourself, you get lost. It's just happening on a maze.
Yep. Sorry, guys. There's a maze. You have to figure out how to get out of it.
I believe that I'm not sure if it's what AAA games do, unless they are like Sekiro or Dark Souls or anything. But the typical adventure title that smooths your way if you are struggling with a segment, and it gets easier, so you can just keep playing and keep playing. Mm-hmm. And the casual mobile titles that makes things easier and easier, so you don't feel like frustrated. And I think people are just rejecting naturally the frustration or losing, and they don't like when they have no clue and they are just failing over and over again, even though it's a logic deduction or it's a puzzle that the solution shouldn't be there as clear. You need to just dive a little bit, but they just reject that naturally because they feel bad about themselves. They don't feel like in power, or I don't know. Like,
I can't figure this out. It makes me feel silly. I hate this game. 1 star. You know?
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I think especially even most people in here, we're probably pretty easy to be able to detect whether it's like a legit review or just someone who got frustrated or whatever. But it makes me happy to see some people in chat were like totally picked this up. So I can't wait to see when they start creating some content with it here. Excellent. Oh my God. Thank you so much for your time. I know I've kept you like way longer than you thought, so I won't keep you any longer, but I am going to try to weasel it out of you one more time. What are you working on now?
My lips are sealed.
Dang it. I tried. I think I even asked him that. Like, I think I asked you that at PAX this last year too. I'm like, hey, nobody's around right now. You want to give me the deets?
No, hopefully we will start teasing something soon. We have a different two projects at the moment. One is a small one, and one is a big one. So we might develop the small one in parallel with the big one, so we can just launch something sooner. Because if you just come back from a long project and then you start another big project, it's a bit of exhausting. So sometimes you need to do something smaller. So, but it's still to be decided because there are multiple reasons before we make a decision.
As most we've discussed today, you know?
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. But as soon as we have something, you will be the first to know.
Yeah, you hear guys, the power of live. Did everyone just hear that? You know, we got you cornered now. Well, you know, I'm a fan, so I'll be checking out anything that comes out from your team from here to forth, because you created a fan out of me for sure. On record, see, they've already got you, man. They've already got you. We're just gonna have to let Danny know that you've already been cornered in. So let's talk about what's releasing then. So we've already established you can get it on Steam. Some of you have done so. Nintendo Switch is already out. You said yes. And PlayStation 4. So all of the things.
All of them, yeah.
Is this pre-order thing something mobile. I should mention right now? Because it looks like there's a day.
It's on pre-order, the limited edition, the physical one for Switch and PS4. It's on pre-order now on redargames.com. So it will be out next month. It comes with a bunch of cool stuff. It has like a booklet and a DLC with a little bit of extra content, and the soundtrack as well. So it's a very limited, of course, very rare edition. It's going to be only 3,000 units for Switch and 2,000 for PS4.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're into limited editions and you're a collector, it's going to be like unique.
Yeah.
We did a PS Vita one, and it was sold out, so it's not possible to buy the PS Vita anymore. But we have this for option now.
Excellent. So, because this says Monday, April 22nd, 3 UCT time. So, is that something people can still take advantage of if they pre-order PS4 or Nintendo Switch right now? That the winner what is today? So they have 2 days.
Well, we are doing like a giveaway of this little guy here.
Please show it. It's so cute. Funko Pop Quinn, you guys.
It's kind of a custom-made one, and we did 3 of them, and we are giving away those among all the pre-orders. And now we are giving away the second one this Monday, and we will give away the third one probably a couple of weeks or 3 weeks from now.
Nice.
But the actual game, it will be out, I think, mid to late May is when the game will be available. Now it's on pre-order.
Perfect. That's so awesome. So you can get it any way you want to play this game, you can do it. You want to play it on your phone, you want to play it on your tablet, you want to play it on your console of choice, you want to play it on computer. Yeah. And it just goes nicely with everything. I'm going to throw out Chaka's been kind enough throughout the Twitter. Go follow Stay the Game. Definitely keep up to date on that. I was trying to find... Am I allowed to do invites into your Discord? I don't know if I have that power, because I would love to say, go join the Discord too. There's some fantastic people in there. Let's see if I have the power. Do I got the power? All right, let's see if did it translate? Yeah, there we go. If you'd like to join their Discord for Stay the Game, that link should work right there. I don't know if anybody can push the buttons and make sure that I actually had the power there. So go follow Stay. Go follow it in the Discord. Keep an eye on what's going on there. I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you so much for all of your time today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to everyone else in the chat. I've been reading all the comments, so
good.
It has been really fun.
You were brave enough to leave that up so you can see what was good. That's nice. I like that. Good job, GG.
I know, it has been very really fun, and thanks again for your support since day one. So. Really looking forward to work with you again in the future and stay in touch.
Me too. Excellent. Well, I'm going to throw up a BRB screen, guys. I'm going to come back probably in like 15 minutes or so. Give us a second to take a break and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys will stick around or take this time to go have a stretch break, water break, all that good stuff for you right now. Inaki, thank you again.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, guys.